Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I think we've got a wonderful presentation. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I think you're really going to learn some things that you can put into practice right away. So let's go ahead and get started. We still have some people joining us online, but that's okay. I know Sabrina's here and ready, and we will go ahead and get started. So the Wednesday webinar, you guys have all heard this speech bunches of times. If you have any suggestions for topics or ways I can make this better or speakers, I will gladly listen to them and try to get somebody booked for you. A little bit of housekeeping today, as I mentioned briefly, and I mentioned in the emails. Please have your AI tool of choice open during the presentation today. You are going to use it. This will be a very interactive webinar today. Questions, this is a safe space. There's no stupid questions. We can take questions throughout the whole webinar. It is going to be very interactive, so if you have questions, go ahead and ask them. You can unmute yourself, ask it yourself, or you can put them in the chat. I will be monitoring the chat, and I will make sure the question gets answered for you. Certificates, KYM is doing certificates for all of these webinars now. So if you haven't attended one where we've given certificates, this is going to be one. At the end of the webinar, I will show you a web link and a QR code, and I'll give you some more information on how to get yours. And then last but not least, I will be sending out an email the end of this week or early next week with a link to the recording. I'll put the recording up on our YouTube channel, and then I will share any resources that Sabrina shares with us. So today we're going to be talking about AI prompting for PIOs. You're going to learn where AI can help today, drafting alerts, detours, press releases, and facts. You're going to learn how to write better prompts for clearer, faster outputs. You're going to learn what's safe and not safe to put into AI tools in a government setting. You're going to learn how to use AI to support accessible, multilingual, and caption content. You're going to learn tips for disclosure, ethics, and starting simple agency AI policies. And you're going to learn copy-ready prompt examples you can adapt to real scenarios. You're going to learn a lot today. It is a great webinar, I promise you. So our speaker, Sabrina Merritt, is the founder and CEO of October Social Media, a digital agency specializing in social strategy, social media governance, and content creation for government and regulated industries. She's known for blending creativity with compliance. She leads a team that supports agencies like the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, Indiana Department of Health, and the City of Atlanta. Sabrina is nationally recognized speaker and a trainer whose work has been featured by NPR and Black Enterprise, and she's spoken at several national conferences. She's also leads October Learning Lab, which equips public sector teams with accessible, actionable, and social media and digital communications training. Offstage, Sabrina is a curious reader, a wife, a mom, and a nature lover. So, Sabrina, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to stop my share and turn the screen over to you. I am so looking forward to this. The floor is yours. Say hello to everyone.
Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited to be here. Thank you for that lovely introduction, David. As David mentioned, today we're going to be talking about AI prompting for public information officers. And I want to pack in as much as we can in our session. So I'm going to jump right in. Now, David did a wonderful job of doing an introduction for me and what I do. So I won't spend time repeating that. Instead, I'll say that when I am not running October social media, I am working across the nation, training, speaking, talking with government employees, government communicators about all things digital communications, which includes social media and AI. So that is definitely what we're going to be talking about today. Excited to share that with you. When I am not doing those things, I I am hanging out with these folks here in the middle. That is my husband, Eric, and my daughter, Erin. It is my pleasure to do this work, but also have a nice hang with my family. It's a great balance. As David mentioned, we work across the nation with government agencies. So, just a little bit of some of the work we've done here. And we're taking all of the work that we've done on the ground, working with government communicators just like you to inform the training sessions that we do. So that is what makes our training and the training we'll go through today very different, is that we're not just talking about what we've seen or what we've heard or what we've studied in theory. We're talking about practical application so that you can walk out of here today using the things that you've learned to improve how you do your work, your approach to your work. So, yes, please go ahead if you haven't already and open up your AI tool. And let's get started with that interactivity because we're going to be using our chat a lot today. So, if you're using ChatGPT, please go ahead and put a one in the chat. If you're using ChatGPT, go ahead and put a one in the chat. If you're going to use Copilot, which makes perfect sense, is perfectly acceptable, it's a part of Microsoft 365, which most of us are using as our work applications, go ahead and put a two in the chat. So I'd love to see what tools we're using. If you're using ChatGPT, go ahead and put a one. If you're using Copilot, go ahead and put a two. I'm going to continue to monitor the chat, but I just want to do a little housekeeping of my own. Remember to be curious. Some things that we're going to talk about today are going to work for you, and other things you might be like, Sabrina, I don't know, not so much. Or you may take something away and say, I need to revise it or tweak it. I see you, Marilyn, you're using Gemini. That's perfectly acceptable as well. If you're using Claude, that's acceptable also. Everything that we're talking about today is tool agnostic. So we're just talking about crafting and creating great prompts that will work across multiple communication outputs. So regardless of the tool that you're using today, everything is going to be applicable. So thank you, Marilyn, for that shout out. You're using Gemini. Also using ChatGPT. I see some co-pilots. Go ahead if you haven't already. Let us know what you're working with. Go ahead and put that in there. It does make a difference about how we talk about the work, and it's super helpful. Remember also to ask questions, share resources in the chat if you'd like. And then also keep in mind that this is a no judgment zone. We're covering a lot of different things, but remember that people have teams of different sizes. Some people have different technological savvy, I like to say, right? So we're talking to a broad audience. Some of us are more advanced than others. So again, take what works for you. Make sure you're ready to contribute and participate. I see these ones and twos coming in. And I see Danielle says, can you cover AI tools you recommend? And if there are preferred applications for different types, definitely we can talk about that as well. All right. And Dennis says he uses ChatGPT 90% of the time. I do too, but don't tell Copilot I said that. Okay. So perfect. And I'll talk about why I use it over others. We'll get into that as well. So, what are you going to learn today? So, we're going to touch on all of the things that David mentioned, but really we're going to talk about all of those things through the filter of what it means to create a great prompt so that you know how to address all of your communication needs. So, we'll talk about what makes a great prompt, what are those components, and why it matters. It does matter. We'll talk about how to write prompts that save time and reduce that frustration. We'll talk about how to create a more complex prompt. So once you have that simple prompt formula down, how do you take it up a notch? How do you apply your strategy and your years of being a communications specialist, a communications professional? How do you incorporate that strategy into your prompt? And then we'll talk about everyday uses. So what things should you be thinking about? What sort of outputs could you be using it for that you had not considered? As David said, we will be taking questions all along the way. And actually, I prefer it because it's going to be pretty bland and boring if I just drone on with no participation. So I already like we're off to a great start. Please continue to ask questions, to jump in. David is going to continue to watch the chat for us, and I will watch the chat as well. And away we go. So, what is a prompt? Remember, this is for beginners. So if you're using it and you already know this, or you're just getting started, stay with me. We're headed in the right direction. So a prompt is, simply put, an input or an instruction that you're giving to an AI system. You could be using ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Claude are just a few of the main ones out right now. Those are the most used. I would say ChatGPT is the most used AI tool, followed by Gemini. I like Gemini a lot as well. I think that's a great tool. A lot of people tend to use Claude as the third. And I hate to say it, Copilot is bringing up the rear, but Microsoft is aware of that and are working on some things to improve their AI functionality. So that prompt is going to be that input, that instruction that you put into your tool to generate a response. A well-crafted prompt is going to be one that has clear context, specific instructions, and desired outcomes. So what are you expecting from your output? What do you want that output to be? Helping AI to produce more accurate, relevant, and useful results. So, why are we even spending time on prompt engineering, which, by the way, is what it's called? The idea of putting together a prompt that is clear, is specific, talks about desired outcomes. That is going to be our prompt engineering. Why is it so important? Well, the goal is to make sure that when you're using AI, you reduce the amount of times that you have to input a prompt in order to get the output that you're looking for. So the number of iterations. The goal is to get as close as you can to the desired output without having to go into the tool 10 times, 12 times in order to get the desired outcome. And frankly, if you're spending that much time on an AI prompt, then is it really as effective as it could be? Are you really saving time? So you should be gauging your use of AI or the measurement of success of your AI tool around one, is it getting done? Is your output getting done in a reduced amount of time? So if you're typically writing a press release, let's just say, and that takes you 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, is using the AI tool reducing the amount of time that it takes to create that output? And is the output actually useful? So that's the first thing you want to keep in mind. You should be using AI to fill in knowledge gaps, increase your capacity, affirm what you already kind of know to be true. So as a professional, you shouldn't be led down a rabbit hole with your AI tool that is where you're getting the suggestions or recommendations that are totally outside the realm of communications or what you know to be true as a professional. It should affirm things you already know to be true because it is holding true to communication standards. And you should be using it, of course, to be more productive and efficient. So, affirming what you know to be true, reducing and filling in knowledge gaps, and having that increase productivity. Now, what types of prompts are there? There is the simple prompt. It's going to be a direct instruction or a request. For example, summarize this road closure alert for public notice. It's very quick, straight to the point, single prompt, meaning can be a single word, a single sentence. The next type of prompt is a detailed prompt. That's going to have more context. Typically, it will talk about the format of the output, the voice and tone. An example of that is draft a plain language nixle alert for a flood advisory for 3 counties. Keep it under 280 characters. Include a link to the official emergency map, and we're going to talk about what that means, how you would do that in forthcoming slides. And then there's the multi-step prompt, which combines several tasks into a single instruction for layered work. Now, I am going to tell you that out of these 3 prompts, what I personally prefer and the approach we're going to take today is we're going to start off with the detailed prompt. That is because the simple prompt typically does not give you enough information for the output that you're looking for. It's going to require a lot of iteration, a lot of back and forth. The multi-step prompt is not my favorite approach, but it does depend on your style and your learning style. In that, usually that means that the AI tool is going to give you a very long output where all of the information, there's tons of reading, you have to keep scrolling. It requires a lot of back and forth, and you typically are led into doing more iterations of your output in that way as well. The detailed prompt allows you to put in information little by little and refine as you go. And that tends to help you reduce the amount of iterations. When you're doing a simple task, you should be aiming for 1 to 2 prompt iterations. If you're doing a more complex task, something that requires strategy, there's lots of nuance, other sensitivities, and things to be considered as it relates to the voice, the tone, the language that is being used in your communication output. You're going to be looking at maybe 3 to 5 iterations. The goal is, though, to remember that we're looking to reduce the amount of iterations it requires to get us close as possible to the desired outcome. I think I saw some things happening in the chat. Do we have any questions? No?
Yes, Sabrina, John is asking how does he write a prompt that refers to other documents? And you may get to this later. Or where do those documents need to reside, like online or with a URL?
Yes, so that's a great question. We are going to get to it later. So I'm going to save that question later, and I'm going to give you some tricks about how to organize content that you have on your computer to help with your prompt engineering. So we definitely are going to get to that question. Hold that thought. So let's get into what makes a great prompt as we get into putting our prompts together. So what we want to stay away from is a vague prompt, right? We want to create a detailed prompt. Remember, that's where we're starting. That's going to give us our output. So let's look at some examples. A vague prompt is going to be summarize our agency's emergency alert policy so staff can understand it. And we're going to talk about also what's public information versus not as we come up in forthcoming slides. So stay with me. Better prompt is going to be write a brief overview of our agency's cybersecurity policy or our emergency alert policy for staff orientation. Use clear, non-technical language and include 3 key do's and don'ts. Much more clear, much more detailed, much more ready for sharing internally as part of your internal communication. We're also going to talk about internal versus external communication in forthcoming slides. The other thing, let's look at another example, vague prompt. Draft an announcement about temporary service delays. Okay, so that can work, but we're missing some detail there. Here's the thing about AI. It loves to please its user. So it is going to do everything it can to answer any type of prompt you put into the tool, even if the prompt isn't specific, even if the prompt does not have all the information it needs for the output. And so even if it's vague, it will still make an attempt to answer or give you the output. So, spending the time writing the right prompt not only reduces the amount of iterations, but it also makes sure that you don't spend time getting outputs that you really cannot use because the AI tool is looking to answer you and wants to be that A student. Yes, what did you ask for? I'm going to try to give you everything you asked for, even though I know I don't have all of the information. For those of you who are new or have been using it, you may have also noticed that AI doesn't always ask questions before giving you an output. It's so eager to please that it will fill in or make up information in order to give you that output. So, what's a better example of this prompt? Craft a 2 paragraph announcement for the agency website explaining the temporary delay in 911 text response due to a server upgrade. Use plain language and that is suitable for a general audience. So, once again, more detailed, more specificity as it relates to audience. We're also now talking about where this communication is going to live. So keep that in mind as we're thinking about what makes a better prompt. What sort of details are you currently picking up on? Let's look at some other examples. Write a post. So we didn't say what type of post, right? Write a post about the application deadline. That's a very vague prompt. Better prompt, write a Facebook post reminding residents in Jefferson County that the emergency sandbag pickup request form closes at 5 p.m. this Friday. Include a link and use a calm, helpful tone. Better prompt example. What are you starting to notice about some of the better prompts? Go ahead and drop anything you notice that makes the prompt better in the chat. I'd love to see what you're already picking up. I'm going to go into another example while you drop in what you're seeing. What I want to see in the chat is what are you seeing make as an example of what makes a better prompt? Okay, so next vague prompt example, draft an announcement about temporary service delays. Again, very general. And then write a 1 paragraph message for the county website about 24-hour delay and curbside storm debris pickup due to staff shortages. Use plain, reassuring language for residents. What does that word reassuring language tell us? Now we're using our prompts to inform strategy, what we know to be true about our community, our audience, and what we know to be true as communicators, those strategic call outs. Marilyn says using plain, reassuring language. I like this. I love that too, Marilyn, right? We're talking about tone and language. Yes. Have we also started to talk about audience? You may have also noticed we're talking about audience. We've talked about the output, right? Where is it going? How is it going to be used? We've also mentioned language count. So we've talked about having a 1 paragraph message. We've also had talked about having a character count. Paragraph is a little vague. That's right, John. We want to double down and say a character count if we're aware of it. What about if we were doing a newsletter? Could we be specific in that way as well? So we're already starting to do it. We're thinking about all the ways we want to be detailed in order to improve our prompt. So there's some other things that we should consider when we're going to improve our prompt as it relates to information and documents that we share. But first, we need to understand the safety and limitations around government use, and then we're going to get into some prompting ourselves. So here's first what you need to know that the AI tools, Copilot, Gemini, ChatGPT, they are large language models or generative AI tools. So if you're old enough to remember encyclopedias, I don't want to date any of us on here, right? It is not an encyclopedia or a database of facts. That is not what's happening. So you're not putting in that information and it's like, oh my gosh, let me search the database and spit that information out. That's not what's happening. Instead, it is recognizing your language patterns and connecting that language together to say, okay, similar to if you have an iPhone, you notice that when you start texting on your iPhone or perhaps your Android, you'll see that your text messaging, your phone is already trying to guess what the next word is. That is exactly what your AI tool is doing. It is studied a bunch of conversations, language patterns, online and through data that has been given to the tools from the respective companies. And so they are guessing at language. That is how they read and speak language. That being said, where they are pulling information from is from a bevy of online sources as well as data that has been given to the tool. So it is studying data that has been given to the tool from respective companies as well from their respective companies as well as pulling information from online. For example, ChatGPT pulls a lot of information from Reddit as well when it's giving its answer. So you want to keep in mind that it's not a verified database of facts. It is a large language model that understands language from patterns, right? That's why it's speaking to you. That's how it knows to respond to you. That's how it can guess what you're trying to say, even if you misspell something. And that it is pulling information from various places online and using the data that it has been trained on from the various companies. So that's the first thing you should know. The second thing you should know is that the tools can produce inaccurate, or they like to say hallucinate. You may like to use, we're in the South, you may like to use the word fib. But the reality is that AI will make up information. So if it does not have all of the information it needs to make a recommendation, to give you an output, it will hallucinate or fill in the blanks and fill in the blanks with information that may not be true. You want to make sure that you're always checking, you always confirm what your AI outputs are. I'm sure you're seeing all the news articles about people getting in trouble because of they're just taking AI outputs at face value and not really checking to see, is this a real policy? Is this link actually working? Is what it's saying actually true? You should be using it as a thinking partner, a computer that runs alongside you to help with more effective strategy and content creation, but you always want to confirm your information. The other thing that you want to do is avoid entering sensitive, personal, classified, or pre-decisional information unless you're using something that is already approved, secure, and policy cleared. So let's talk about what that means. If you are using Copilot and your agency owns Copilot, you either have two versions of it. You either have one or two versions of it. You have Microsoft 365, the enterprise version, or you have Microsoft 365 GCC, which is the government version. Both versions have a level of security, meaning that if you use the enterprise version, you are on your own tenant. That means you're on your own cloud, you're on your own server, and the information that is being shared is not being shared with the public that is using Copilot, for example. So the information you put into that system is not being used to train other AI systems. However, there can still be a thing such as data breaches and different things that happen with all software tools. So you want to be sure that any information that you're putting into your AI tool to assist with your outputs, that you avoid it being sensitive in nature, personal. So your personal identifying information, anyone else's personal identifying information, that it isn't classified in any way, or is it information that isn't already public facing, basically. You want to make sure that you're keeping that that in mind. And when in doubt, you should refer to your organization's AI policy if you have one. If you don't have one, this is your call to create one, right? To work with legal and the city manager, various stakeholders to develop your AI policy. You should be using your AI tool to draft, summarize, strategize, and ideate, not make or official communication decisions. So we want to be clear about what the parameters are, what we should be thinking about, how it works, so that when we use it, we feel confident in the fact that we're getting the outputs that we need, but we're also being compliant and safe with our organization's data. Any questions as we move forward? Okay, so let's get into it. The last 30 minutes we're going to spend writing our prompts, doing the exercises. So now that we know what a prompt is, what makes a vague prompt versus a better prompt, we've talked about the sort of the rules, the compliance, the regulation around AI use. Let's talk about what makes a great prompt. Well, first, whenever you're using AI, you want to think about what role do you want the tool to take? So who is it acting as? You can say, hey, I want you to act like someone in my role. I want you to act as a public information officer. Or maybe you're using it to fill in knowledge gaps and you're like, you know what? I want you to work as a social media and a digital strategist. I want you to act as a web manager. I want you to act as, you ready for it, a crisis communication subject matter expert. Who doesn't like that, right? Okay, so you're going to use it to increase capacity, fill in knowledge gaps, and that's what you should be thinking about when you're thinking about who you want it to act as. Next, you want to identify the task. So, what do you want it to do? Are we writing a plain language summary? All right, that's our example here. What context do we want to ask? So, what is the situation or topic that is going to provide that nuance about what we're writing about? So, we're in this particular example, we're writing a plain language summary about the outdoor warning siren system. What is the output style? Remember, we already talked about that in the chat and past examples. What's the format, the tone, the length? Use a professional plain language tone, limit under 150 words. I can't remember if that was Maryland or not, but we mentioned talking about the character count. So keep in mind, we're talking about who we want the AI tool to act as, what task we're doing, what's the context, and then what is the voice and tone. Now, sometimes it's overwhelming to think about all of the things that your AI tool can do. So I want you to choose right now what you're going to work on for your prompt engineering. You can work on an internal communication task. We're going to use one prompt that we work on for the remainder of our time together. So choose one task. You can work on any of the internal communication tasks you see here. If you want, go ahead and take a screenshot of this. David already has the deck, so it is going to be available for you. But for the sake of this exercise, if you think you want to focus on something internal, go ahead and take a screenshot of this so you can refer back to this as we'll be moving forward in our deck. So, do you want to draft talking points or briefing notes for a leadership meeting? Do you want to summarize policy updates or budget priorities? Remember, these things should be public facing if you're going to use these things. Do you want to draft or outline staff memos or all hands updates? When I say public facing, I mean internal public facing as well. So everything is not for the public, but will this make its way to other people outside of you? And then create a sample training materials or how-to guides for emergency procedures, alert systems. It doesn't have to be any of these examples, but I want you to choose one. And this is just to give you an idea of what you can choose. And then we're going to talk about what support documents, links, and things you can do for your prompt. You can talk about public communication and outreach. David, I saw some things pop up in the chat. So again, you can do take a screenshot of this. You can decide that you want to summarize complex emergency procedures. Maybe you want to reword a technical or legal text into plain language. Maybe you want to create FAQs, explainer text. Let's go ahead and take a screenshot of this and begin our prompting. All right. So here's your prompt template. I want you to, in your AI tool, put in you are and insert the role. Write what you want that task to be. Write the context. And then use and input your output style. Do you want it to write a social media post? Do you want to write internal guidelines? Okay, I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. I'll go back to some examples here so you can see it. Internal communications, we have public communication and outreach. And then here's your prompt example. Once you have written your prompt, put it into your tool. And then I'd like you to share your prompt in the chat. I'd like you to share your prompt in the chat. So I want you to create your prompt, put it in the tool. While it's giving you the output, go ahead and put it in the chat.
Sabrina, I went ahead and copied and pasted those four bullet points that you had. And then I copied and pasted the prompt template in there. If they want to use that, they can make their edits and copy and paste into their AI tool using that. Make it a
Thank
little
you.
easier, maybe.
Thank you so much, David. And John, you're absolutely right. Keyword is draft. We're using AI as a drafting partner. We're using AI as a strategist. AI is a great strategist, someone to bounce your ideas and strategies off of. You can expand it. Let's go ahead and see. Anyone have a prompt example that they want to put into the chat? Let me see your prompt. Don't be shy. Okay, thank you, Kurt. When outdoor warning sirens are activated, residents should immediately seek shelter indoors and tune into. Oh, is this your output, Kurt? This looks like your output. Okay, I see your M dashes. That definitely looks like an output. This is very good. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. Tracy, okay, I see your prompt here. You are a public health director. Write a memo on what is this? Avian flu risk. Use general language. Use a simple introductory sentence followed by a bullet list. Love it. John, write a 300-word summary. Okay, love it. Stephanie, you are a crisis communication subject matter expert. I see you like that example, Stephanie. I love that. Okay, write a public notice about upcoming winter weather. Love it. Another great idea, super great for communication outputs, is are there things you can do to create evergreen content that you're going to use over and over? We know that when winter comes, we're going to have to start talking about weather. We're going to have to start talking about roads, protecting homes, things that you can do. So, is there content you can already create? These are great prompts. Now, I want you to tell me what's wrong with your output. Did you love it? Is there someone who was like, no notes? I love my prompt. If you loved your prompt, go ahead and put I loved my prompt in the chat. No notes, no iterations required. No notes, no iterations required. Oh, okay. So we're getting outputs, but they require work. Yes, I'm not seeing anything in the chat. All right. So now I want you to tell me what's missing from your prompt, or from your output, rather. What's missing from your output? Is it not enough details? Do you need to add more information in order for it to give you the output that you're looking for? What's missing from your output? What would you have liked to see in your output? Stephanie, John, Tracy. Any feedback, Kurt? Let's see. Marilyn, add more information about what you'd like the public to do. Yes, love that. Kevin, oh, you want pictures and illustrations, Kevin. So I will say this, ChatGPT will give you pictures and illustrations, not its strongest, not its strongest work, not its best work. Um, but it can give you that. Um, Tools you might use for AI outputs. Canva has a very nice AI generated output. It does better sometimes than ChatGPT. Sora is another one for illustrations and also video. VEO by Google does a great job on video outputs. But ChatGPT has problems in two areas. One, it suffers with complex numbers and data sets. It starts to pretend like it does not understand math and will give you a wrong mathematical outputs. Two, it is not the greatest at creating graphics and pictures. These are great. Stephanie said specifically for mine, it would be nice to include links. Love it. Okay, so let's talk about how to do that. Let's get a little bit more complex. This was my original prompt that I am a public information officer. We're writing plain language summary of the outdoor warning siren system, purpose, and how residents should respond when they hear it. Use under 150 words. So this was my example, my original prompt. If you notice, we have all the components, the role, the task, the context. Now, I want to spend a little time on the context here. If you notice, it has recently come to our attention that some residents don't know what action to take. Saying that to your AI tool, including that in the prompt, provides nuance. It doesn't just say, tell residents what to do. It says, people don't know what action to take. And what's the distinction there? Because sometimes you can tell people what to do and they still don't know what action to take. We're communicators, right? We've told people what to do, but they still don't know what action to take. This context can make a difference in the outputs that you receive. Now we're talking about the audience. So you can also consider, as you add more nuance to your prompt, expanding who the audience is. Are we just talking to the community as a whole? Are there community stakeholders? Do we need different messaging for the businesses in our area versus our citizens, our residents, our community members that live in residential areas? How are we going to change the tone and style? And then we want to start thinking about our communication outputs. Is this a social media post? Is this going to be on the website? Are we going to put this in our emergency notification system? So we want to start expanding and adding more context around audience, around tone and style, medium, length, and format in order to get the outputs that we're looking for. But let's take it up a notch. We're spending more time on our context, right? I said people don't know what to do, even though we've told them people don't know what to do. We expanded around our audience. So we gave more information about who our audience is. Maybe they speak another language. Maybe English isn't their first language. Maybe we are talking to people, we're talking to the elders in our community, and they need different information, or the approach has to be different. Maybe we need to think about accessibility, and there's no maybes about it. So this is an opportunity to also include, make sure that the language meets accessibility, right? Meets accessibility requirements. Okay. And we're going to think about length and format. Now, here are some of my other favorite ways to add complexity to your prompt. And I want you to take the same prompt you've been using and add some nuance to it. So add more information about the audience, add more information about the context. And now I want you to put in and make sure this meets public communications, public sector communications, and accessibility best practices. The other thing you can do here, one of my favorites, is assign expertise or experience. Act as if you are and then put in the role, whatever role you gave your AI tool, and then say a subject matter expert or an SME. You can put in SME. Your AI tool will recognize what you mean in this context with 20 plus years experience. Here's another favorite of mine. So, was it Stephanie? You put in, I think, about being a a crisis communications expert. Here's another one of my favorites, Stephanie. I think you're going to love this. On a scale to one to 100, estimate the likelihood that this message will be clearly understood by the general public, or, ready for this, will reduce negative feedback. So think about what this means now. If we're using our AI tools strategically, we're inputting our strategy, right? We want you to be a subject matter expert. We want to meet public communications and accessibility standards and best practices. And I want you to tell me, how likely is it that my messaging will be understood on a scale to 1 to 100 to 1 to 100? How likely is it that this will cause a crisis communication? And if you want to take it a step further, right? If you want to take it a step further, what can we do to reduce the likelihood it will turn into a crisis? Okay, so we're starting off very simple. We have the context, we have the role, we have the task, we've talked about the audience, we have the format, we have the length. Now I want you to start adding some complexity. I want you to include industry standards. I want you to assign some level of expertise. And I want you to also ask about that scale to 1 to 100. Now, we have some people that have been participating: Avery, Stephanie, Kurt, we have Marilyn and Jennifer. Any of you that have participated and put your prompt in the chat or your outputs, I want you to tell me how your output has changed. Has your output changed? Some people loved how their output changed in our last class, the last class we did on this. And some people were like, Sabrina, we have to make some changes here. But I want to know. Yes, Tracy said much more information was provided. Does that mean that you liked the information, Tracy, or was it too much? While you're putting your answers in the chat, I want to hear from more of you about how this adding context, adding a role that someone is a subject, that your tool is a subject matter expert, asking about the probability. Tracy said it was what I expected based on the alterations made. Wonderful. If that got you closer to what something you can use, then we're cooking with grease, as they say, right? We're headed in the right direction. Here is my favorite and last prompt that well, it's not our last prompt, but we're getting close. I call it the kitchen sink prompt. And this is where you talk about and you add to your prompt not just the role, context, the audience, right? The output style, but this is where we talk about the sensitivities. So maybe you say something like, whenever we talk about this topic, it is sensitive and polarizing in our community. That's an important nuance. That means that AI is going to start thinking about how to refine the output because they know that it's been sensitive, it's a sensitive topic or polarizing. How about this? We've tried this before and it didn't land well, either with leadership in the city, at the county, or it didn't land well with the public. Just specify, where didn't it land well? If you have more context about why it didn't land well, include that as well. Maybe you say something like, you know what? I'm new to government. I'm new to this role. I am a communications professional, but I'm new to this and I don't know what I don't know. So I need you to fill in gaps around this topic. I need you to call out things that I may not have considered. And here's another one of my favorites. I use it all the time. I'm short on time. Not that communicators working in government are ever short on time. I'm short on time. And this meeting is tomorrow. This meeting is in an hour. This meeting is in a few minutes, and I don't have time for a lot of back and forth. So I need to know what are the main things I should address? What are the main things I should consider? What are the main things that I should keep in mind as I go into this meeting? So this is the kitchen sink prompt where you talk about not just the outputs, but you add the human element, add that nuance, add the internal politics that's happening within the organization, add that, hey, I'm an expert in this. I don't know about websites. So I don't even know if I'm asking you the right questions. I need you to tell me what things I should keep in mind. When you provide that full nuance and context, you're going to exponentially get better outputs. You're going to start to have a thinking partner that knows and understands how you think, what your role is, the things you're concerned about, and how to give you better outputs. All right. Now, I want you to go ahead and add one of those things I mentioned around audience, context. Use the kitchen sink. Go ahead and put your prompt back in with that full information. I'm going to look at the chat. Kurt says, found out I will be able to translate in different languages in my area for warnings. That's right, right? You now have a translator. Now, should you check your translations? Absolutely. You should definitely check your translations. If you're speaking, if we're thinking about Spanish specifically, we also want to keep in mind whether we're using general Spanish or whether we're being regional with our Spanish output. Sometimes people have to consider that depending on their geographic location. You want to include all that information when you're asking for translations. You want to include all that information when you're talking about accessibility, right? It's all right there in your prompt. But what else are we also taking away? That you have to spend more time on your prompt. This isn't about rushing in and just putting in a quick, hey, I need this very quickly. You are preparing your AI tool to learn you, to learn how you think, to learn about what you need. And so you have to spend more time developing a prompt. So go ahead and start to share your outputs. I'm going to give you some tools as we go into the last few minutes. Okay? So you need something fast? Summarize this article in 3 bullet points. You need a summary? Give me one sentence. These are quick, right? Give me a one summary sentence of this report. We were talking about, there was a question earlier, where should you go for links? So first, I want to say, I have an AI guide that I leave on my computer. I have a folder, I have a Word doc, and in there are all of my links to anything that I'm typically going to use for an output, anything that's public facing on various website pages. ChatGPT, if you're using chat, struggles to read URLs. So you're going to have to click on the URL, go to that page and do a copy and paste function, or download the page if you have that functionality on your website, or if you're a part of managing the website or have that level of access to the website, so that you can upload that information into the prompt. There is a way to do more advanced document uploads, but since we're staying here for beginners, that is the easiest way to do that, to copy and paste the information. Another thing you can do is screenshot the information. So if you want to refer to information on a landing page, a website landing page, or a document, you can either upload the document, you can drag and drop that document into the AI chat thread and say, refer to this document, summarize this document, etc. Or you can do a screenshot of that landing page, etc. Copilot is a little better at reading URLs, but typically, sometimes, depending on the website, the security measures runs into the same problems. So I like to upload my documents that I'm referring to. I like to provide links, but you can ask ChatGPT to provide you with links. So let's say you want to know about a policy or you want to know something that's public facing, you can ask it to provide you with URL links. You can ask all of the AI tools, but you definitely have to check them. Sometimes they'll give you links that are no longer functioning. Sometimes they give you the right links. It requires that you do check. If you're looking for instant insights, what are the top 3 takeaways from this report? Review this public notice and draft and suggest one improvement to make it clearer for the public. So there are things you can do if you have established communications in order to move quickly. You can use a shorter, more still detailed, but shorter prompt. But the real takeaway here is that you want to spend time drafting your prompts and adding that nuance. I know we're towards the end and David has some housekeeping, so I want to give you some gifts. Okay. This is a free download of AI prompts from everything. This is not just about outputs, it's about interview questions for how to hire. We use AI to figure out how to hire, what interview questions to ask, to create a rubric that you can use during interviews. This also has communication outputs. Very useful tool. Please go ahead and download it. You do have to put in your information so that the download can be delivered to your email box. If you enjoyed this AI workshop training and you'd like to have a more detailed workshop on how to create your own AI agents, how to stand AI up in your organization, how to measure success, or you want to learn about social media strategy, training, how to create a social media report, you just want to know about what training we have available, go ahead and scan this QR code and you can join our waiting list. You'll be one of the first people to learn about our upcoming trainings. I'm going to leave this up for just a minute longer and say thank you so much. I am more than happy to stay after to answer any questions as well. If you want to ask me questions, you can also email me at Sabrina at October Social Media or email David and he can pass them on and I'm happy to answer them for you as well. I'll stop sharing here.
Excellent, Sabrina. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Does anybody out there have any last quick questions they would like for Sabrina? As she mentioned, if you think of any, feel free to email them to me. I'll make sure Sabrina gets them. Do our best to get the questions answered. While you're thinking of those, I will also say your social media training is fantastic. If anybody ever gets the opportunity, take it. This is like the 5th or 6th webinar that I've had with Sabrina, and it's just been absolutely great. You're just so good at what you're doing. I love it.
Thank you, David.
Um, Alrighty, I am going to go ahead and share my screen again real quick. I'm still monitoring the chat, so if anybody has any, feel free to ask the way. So everybody has my contact information. Upcoming schedule. There is going to be no webinar in December. I will send out kind of a summary email of the activities and the webinars that we have available on our YouTube channel. But our next webinar is going to be January 21st of 2026. Can you believe this? It's going to be 2026. It is going to be on community engagement in a long-term recovery efforts. We have a speaker coming from or speaking from Colorado. She's wonderful. I think you'll really like it. Other than that, if we have no other questions, again, help me give a virtual round of applause for Sabrina. I do so appreciate it. It was excellent. And it is 1 o'clock on the dot, so I will turn you loose. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, the rest of your week, and everybody be safe next week and hopefully get to spend some time with your family and your loved ones during the Thanksgiving holiday.